All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm really honored to wear the sweatshirt. Thank you, team, for letting me borrow. It's Misty's. I apologize if I stretch the neck hole out, Misty, but I do have a rather large head. Thank you all for joining us. We're here to honor Misty Humphreys, who I think you all know is the president. I'm Ravi Rajani. I'm the president-elect, and this is the hardest talk I've ever had to give in front of a group of people. And I'm slightly nervous, which is why we all have champagne in front of us. You know, when I was asked to do this, everyone said, "Oh, you have it easy. It's Misty. There's lots of stuff to talk about with Misty." But that makes this very challenging, right? And I said I had three goals. Ultimately, I wanted to be respectful to Misty, of course. I want to try to be funny. Y'all can let me know if I succeed or not. And I didn't want to give away too many of the answers to your online security questions when I go over your history. So we'll see if that lasts. So again, no roast would be complete without starting at the beginning. This is a picture of Misty when she was 12 years old. And no, but in all seriousness, Misty's born in Quitman, Texas. That's a place in northeastern Texas I didn't know we had in northeastern Texas. We have the obligatory pictures when she was a youngster, obviously bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, very happy upbringing, which was primarily actually in Lafayette, Louisiana, which you can see there. And we start to get little hints of Misty, the things that she would grow up into, right? The fun-loving daredevil who we all know and love. But as far as I can tell, a lot of the early upbringing was really just a pretty fun home life, right? Like she was raised by Debbie and Perry, who are here with us this morning in front, and I want to give them a round of applause. Thank you for raising her right. She's one of the most amazing people I think that we all know. There's Debbie and Perry on the left. You can see Misty with her mother and her mother-in-law on the right there. And to go over the basic CV stuff. So Misty went to Texas A&M Corpus Christi. I'm not sure that's a real school. On their website, they call themselves the Island University. That sounds like a party school if there ever was one. She then went to medical school at Texas A&M College Station and then, of course, did her residency at UC Davis. She did some funded cancer work as well, but ultimately decided to do vascular surgery to the betterment of us all and did her fellowship at Utah. And so now we've kind of gone through that early upbringing, and this is Misty, right? She loves the world, she's really happy, she's very wholesome, and then I'm not sure what happened, but somehow this other character starts to make an appearance around this time, and it's really, this was very hard for me to reconcile that there was this person, and I'll read a quote, you know, most people don't know that Misty has probably done more for the underserved vascular patients of California than anyone else in the entire world. Oh, and she really likes fast cars and champagne. Like this idea that you had these two people embodied in one person, these two queens, as you saw in the opening slide, that I really struggled with. For example, I don't know if you knew this, but Misty's a phenomenal athlete. So she started doing triathlons in fellowship and was an Ironman competitor. She went to Sweden to represent the United States in athletic competition. Like, that's phenomenal. But at the same time, there's this. And I don't know if this is what we want representing U.S. athletics. Like, this seems really wrong, right? And I just can't figure this out. Like, on the one hand, oh my God, she's this paragon of virtue. And on the other hand, good God, Misty, this is really not appropriate. So as I mentioned, Misty is NIH funded to deliver health care to disadvantaged patients in Lone Pine, California. Her and Brett, her husband, who we'll talk about in a bit, drove 6 hours every week, every other week to do a clinic in the middle of Southern California. Like, that looks like a place, it's really close to Death Valley, which is probably all you need to hear about it. This is not in California, and where is this picture on the right from? Africa. So amazing work, and I think Misty is really undervalued as an educator. This here, she's showing a young man about how to take care of a surgical wound, and she's really honed the ability to influence and educate the younger members of our society. As you can start to see here, for those that don't know, this is Bernadette's son. What have you done to this young man, Misty? My understanding is he knows how to order a good bottle of champagne certainly better than I do, but better than anyone. And you can start to see some of the real importance that the VSS has played in Misty's life in some of these pictures as well. So what happened? You know, how did we go from this wholesome sort of person? Some people blame Julie Freischlag. I don't know if she's at fault. to a person who insisted on getting on top of any possible sculpture she could, even when it had signs saying, please do not touch around it. I'm sorry, Brett, but I think chronologically it's got to be you, man. It's got to be all your fault, and I'm sorry to throw you under the bus. For those that don't know, this is Brett Limanoff. Brett is Misty's husband. They met during residency, I believe, and the story goes, it was the day before Thanksgiving, and so Brett was there with a buddy of his who was dating someone, and that girl was there, and Misty knew that girl. And so they were hanging out at a bar. Brett describes it as, you know, not a nice place, kind of a dive bar kind of place. And Frank Sinatra came on. And then Brett asked her to dance during Frank Sinatra, and they danced. And he called her the next day, which, to remind you, is Thanksgiving Day. And their first formal date is actually the day after Thanksgiving, which is a great story about two people meeting each other and falling in love. They've been married 14 years. There's lots of pictures showing that you can always tell from a picture how happy a couple is. And I think there's lots of great pictures about how happy they are. There's also about 45 pictures of their 3 dogs. Now, Brett assures me there's a cat, but I don't know if you noticed this. The cat does not appear in a single picture you sent me. Like, literally, I got 50 pictures of the dogs. I'm pretty sure the cat is made up. The cat does not exist and is not a real thing. But they have a wonderful life at UC Davis, and I think you can see how happy Misty is in all these pictures. I do want to close by talking about Misty and the VSS. Some of her best friends have come from this. You can see the amount of love that pours out for her with the sweatshirts and everyone here to support her. I think people have flown in just for today. And her contributions to the VSS are incredible. For those who don't know, Misty was the secretary before this. She oversaw incredible increase in the number of members of the VESS. She's really helped lead the way. But when I boiled it down as to sort of what her greatest contribution to the VSS was, I had to figure this was it. And I think she holds the world record for the most times up to the podium to ask, which I think is the path to becoming a president, because I'm the runner-up for that, and that's how I became president-elect. But it really has been remarkable to learn about all your accomplishments. On behalf of the society, thank you, Misty. I think your leadership, as I mentioned last night, with grace and wisdom through some challenging times is really amazing. You heard about the research program that Liz presented. Misty has been at the forefront of that, making sure this gets completed, continuing to double down on our science. She is an amazing, amazing person who I have learned a lot from. And so we have I sort of figured out now that these two people can exist side by side. This incredible surgeon advocate, one of the few women division chief leaders in vascular surgery in this country, and I want to make sure we say that because I think she is at the top of our field, while maintaining this incredible commitment to who she really is at her true identity. And you see that with all these different pieces, aside from the juvenile alcoholism. And I want us appropriately. Please raise your glass in a toast to Misty Humphreys, President of the Vascular Endovascular Surgery Society. Thank you, Misty, for your leadership. Thank you. I'm not going to take this off right now because that's going to be embarrassing.
Oh, picture for Angela. Yeah, yes, dear.
Well, she doesn't have.
It's okay. You hold them. No alcohol. Okay. Okay. Woo, that's hard. That's hard. So I brought 2 things. I brought oxygen in case I freak out and I like get short of breath. So I taught a few people, you just put it in their mouth. It's just like a paper bag. And then I brought tissues because 100% chance I'm going to cry because that's who I am. I'm very sentimental. And so I think we have to just make a couple of little adjustments to the presentation for presentation mode, and then we will get started from there. Oh, I forgot the paper. Sorry. See how nervous I am? I forgot all the things I was going to say. And I did, Mark Conrad told me write it down and print it in really big font so that, one, you don't have to wear 2 different kinds of glasses, and also that in case you get lost or get nervous, you know what to say. So, good morning. To say that I am overwhelmed right now would be an understatement, honestly. Seeing pieces of my life displayed in front of everyone really brings a lot of emotion, gratitude, reflection, and really deep appreciation for this journey. So I am going to take several liberties today And there is a 99, I thought maybe I was in the speech or in the talk I put together, 99% chance I would cry. I feel like now it's 100. As I mentioned, I had to write a lot of things down. Oh, green button, big green button. Before I begin, I do want to acknowledge my family. Ravi and I got our pictures from the exact same place, so you're going to see some of the same pictures overlapping. That's just the way it is. But my mother and her husband are here. Perry, that's my stepfather. And it was very clear from the introduction that I come from a very significant and strong line of matriarchal women. These unwavering women in my family learned sometimes through incredibly painful experiences that independence was not a choice, but it was a necessity. And they became these fierce, resilient, unshakable women that passed that lesson down to me. And my mother is no different. I left home when I was 17, brimming with the overconfidence of a second-year resident, thinking I knew everything and wanting to escape the rules my mother had set forth for me, and a lot of the pain that was my youth. But over the last 3 decades, my mother and I have built a new relationship. We've built a relationship that's really grounded in love and friendship. And to test that, I had them move to California and live in my house now. Every day they're there. It's amazing. But having my mother there has been like this constant embrace, actually. Every morning she wakes up and she comes out on the balcony and she waves goodbye to me before I go to work now. Sometimes so enthusiastically that I get distracted and I hit our neighbor's car as I backed out of the garage once. And in infinite patience, Perry buffed it out before my husband noticed. And if you really want to know how that turned out, you can look at his face right now because he's just now learning about that incident. So, you know, that's why we have all that rubbing compound in the garage. So, but this test of my strength and their friendship has really been great. I am overwhelmed and excited about how much I love having them with me, and thankful for Perry in his infinite patience as well. And then there, of course, there is my husband. If anyone thinks that their spouse is more supportive than mine, I will gladly go toe-to-toe with you. The late nights, the early mornings, the days that I don't come home until after midnight, Brett is always holding down the fort and making our life look deceptively normal. I like to say that my husband isn't afraid that I'm cheating on him. He's afraid I'm going to add on another case at the end of the day, take an extra call shift, or promise to be home at some specific time just to say, I'm just going to see one more patient, and then we're late somewhere, and I blame him for being late. So I am this woman today because of you. The sacrifices that you have made, your unwavering support, and yes, those thousands and thousands of foot rubs that you give me before bed. Most people don't know this. Every night before bed, when I'm really tired, my husband rubs my feet. If you do not have that husband, I suggest you find one just like that. They're usually found at a dive bar somewhere listening to Frank Sinatra. You soothe me in a way that only a double-decker taco can. You recharge me to go out daily and fight for the beliefs. And most importantly, you forgive me for all the chaos that I inevitably create in our lives. I cannot wait for the next chapter of our lives. You're going to retire this year, and the new role that you have as a stay-at-home husband with the complete honey-do list that I have planned for you, which I also left for Ravi just in case he needed it for this year as president. I also want to acknowledge Angela and the VESS organization. This year has been a great success. You heard Liz talk about the research consortium and the fellowship, the consolidation of the VSIG and the bylaws. They held, I think, 18 events this year. It's overwhelming. We continue to explore new ways to provide grant support for young faculty and research resident endeavors. And we give out more money to young surgeons and trainees than any other national organization. This year we formed a partnership with the American Heart Association to be on their PAD council and have a national VESS representative on there. And then we're expanding and elevating the national presence of young surgeons. And I think that's super important. I hope that we change the field and we change what the future of vascular surgery looks like for young surgeons. If this is your first time at VESS, I encourage you to, or if you're just starting your career, I want you to make this meeting an annual event. It's the most fun you can have in ski outfit. There's a young man named Victor. I don't know if he made it back yet. He was sitting outside. He's presenting. He was wearing a suit. He was wearing a tie. And right before this, and I told him, you have to leave. And you have to come back in a different outfit for your talk. And he said, are you sure? You're my mentor. And I said, I'll call your mentor and tell him what a terrible mentor he is for letting you show up in this outfit. But even nature is afraid of me today, hence all of the snow. So I'm excited to have everybody out there. If you ski or board, go out with a new group today. If you don't, you can come snowmobiling with us, which we did yesterday. Sit in the hot tub, get to know people, get involved. We welcome and embrace diversity in this society. And so I'll sprinkle a little bit more sentiment throughout my talk. But let's dive in. Let's get it over with because the snow is just coming down so great. Everybody wants to be out there. So my talk is going to be about how to thrive and not just survive as a vascular surgeon. For most of my adult life, I have tried to escape the reality of my formative years. I spent years covering up the pain, abuse, fear, hopelessness that was my youth, which Ravi made it look very pretty, and I appreciate that. I thought survival meant erasing every memory that was bad and forging ahead without ever looking back. And I spent decades perfecting what that image should look like, only to have Ravi kind of tear it down whenever the children's pictures are up there to the reality. But those walls that I built were not protecting me. They were really holding me back from living. And so today, what I want to do is I really want to kind of help everyone understand what it is that it looks like in order for you to find that infinite amount of enthusiasm in your career and what it looks like. I'm going to share 5 lessons that I have learned about how to thrive and not just survive as a vascular surgeon. So let's do number 5. Maintain connection beyond your immediate circle. This seems easy, but I spend a lot of time with people that I think most people don't realize. To say that I have a crew is the understatement. Early on in my career, I saw vascular surgery as a solo endeavor. I had to do everything, and when I did, I got it done right, and if I didn't do it, then it wasn't going to get done right. And I'm still a work in progress, which Angela will tell you after my little meltdown, but you know, we all are growing. If you have not read What Got You Here Won't Get You There, or for women, there's another book called How Women Rise, I really encourage you to pick them up. I've read the latter one, which was developed for women in a leadership course, and it really kind of helped me. And over the years, I've asked for more help from incredible individuals who have guided me, challenged me, and supported me. Many of them are in this room. Some are not wearing a sweatshirt. They are people that I call when I really need to be talked off the ledge, and each of them knows I've called and I've just said, I need to talk to you. They've pushed me to be better. They forgive my flaws. They let me vent. But specifically, I've become... Okay, I got it. I've become close to a very specific group of women. And I wasn't always nice to women, especially women that were doing it differently than I was, because I didn't realize that I could befriend people that were doing it differently, and that didn't reflect on me. We share war stories, we sponsor each other for things, we push each other to places neither of us believe, or none of us believe we can go. And not everyone you meet will stay with you with the entire length of your journey, and that's okay, because those people were only meant to be here for that moment. But the people who matter, they will be there at the finish line. They will pick you up, they will straighten your crown when you need, and they will all have a glass of champagne in hand, just in case you don't. Number 4, celebrate and remember the good things. We're terrible at this. Vascular surgeons are notoriously superstitious. If I'm on call and somebody wants to ask me about how's your call going, I just, nope, don't talk. Because the moment you say that, I guarantee there's going to be 3 acute limbs, a rupture, I'm going to be up at 1 a.m. But amidst all the stress, you have to hold on to the joy and find a way to do that. Keep track of the wins somehow. I have a gratitude wall. I know. If any of you have ever seen Hugh Grant talk about gratitude, it's one of my favorite things. He says, don't be absurd. I have a journal of things I hate, but try to develop something that helps you keep track of that. So sometimes whenever I'm a little upset or something, I take one of the cards or I look for editorials that I have posted up there from colleagues. I also have pictures of mentors who have passed away or just things that remember to inspire me. On the toughest day, I look at that, and that's how I remind myself of all the good in my life. Too often I hear people say, you know, whenever, how are you? And there's this cynical kind of living the dream. I am living the dream. I really feel that all of us are. We are doing extraordinary things. We're using our minds, which I call my moneymaker. I use my moneymaker every day, and skills to save lives, and that's worth celebrating. So try to hold on to the good. 3, we only got to get to 1, so we're getting there. And I didn't want to talk too long, so it's going to be short. Let go of the emotions that are not serving you. This is a part where it's going to get a little bit more interesting. So if you're not familiar with some of the cognitive behavioral therapy stuffs, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Quran, I took these words directly from you. Stop being your own worst critic. It's not to call you out on this, but we just had this conversation 3 or 4 days. We hold ourselves to these impossible standards, constantly replaying the things we should have done differently. But perfectionism is an illusion, and it doesn't make you better. A lot of times it'll just make you feel worse. If you haven't explored the concepts of cognitive behavioral therapy, this is one concept that stuck with me. Your thoughts create your actions, and that creates your feelings, and then of course that gives you your results. Or sorry, your thoughts create your feelings, which create your actions, which then create results. You can change your beliefs. Shocking but true, you actually can. And I'm going to give an example. So there's one example on the screen. You know, there's never enough time. Maybe there's never enough time to make your slides, and you get anxiety and frustration and maybe a little paralysis, and then you don't go to the past president's dinner because you're freaking out. And so, you know, but if you change your thoughts to, I have all the time in the world. I feel energized. I feel excited. You know, if I need to get something done, it's going to get done. It looks good. And here we are today. But I'll give you maybe a version that's a little more vascular surgery related. If you perform a TCAR for all the right indications, within the IFU, all the steps go right, but the patient has a stroke afterwards. And in your mind, you just whisper to yourself, if so-and-so would have done it, it would have gone better. It's me. I did that. I wouldn't have had a stroke if it was, you know, my other partner, my more senior partner. That doesn't serve you. That negative talk will create fear. That fear becomes hesitation, indecision, and you become less effective. And then you become paralyzed. And sometimes you're so paralyzed, you don't take on the hard cases anymore. So if I have learned anything, if something goes wrong, analyze it. Learn from it. In cases where you make a mistake, don't let anyone take that mistake from you. That is yours. We have all made mistakes. So what? Tomorrow there will be another day. Next year there will be another year. And when you know better, you will do better. And you will analyze yourself and you tell yourself, I will do it differently next time. Growth is not criticism. It is a path forward. And my husband, who is a history teacher, if any of you want to talk history, he will history with you like nobody's business. But if you're not familiar with this Theodore Roosevelt quote, it's something that he has said to me that we talk about a lot. So I'll read it to you. It is not the critic who counts, not the one who points out how the strong stumble or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the one who is in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives, who errs, who comes up short again and again. But there is no effort without error or shortcoming. The one who strives to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, great devotion, who spends themselves in a worthy cause, who are the best, or who at their best know, in the end, the triumph of achievement, but at their worst, they fail, and they do so greatly, so that their place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who never know victory, but only know defeat. Number 2, this leads me to 2. We're going to get out of here faster than we can. Hold on. Okay. We use a lot of oxygen, not a lot of tissues yet. Surrender to the hard. Let go of the idea of balance. We don't just do elective cases. Our field has some of the highest stakes in medicine. Paralysis after an aneurysm repair, stroke after a carotid, a failed bypass equals limb loss. Oh, and don't get me started with the emergencies. The mayhem, I think Sean Roddy called it the other day, of walking into the trauma bay or being called into an OR room filled with chaos. The floor is covered in empty, blood unit bags. There's 3 cell savers running. And that moment that somebody looks up and says, oh, thank God you're here. Oh, this is how it feels on the inside. But of course, you don't get to look like that on the outside. We get transfer requests all the time, too, from people who are just, I'm not comfortable with this case. Jerry Jerkovich is our chief of quality. He's at UC Davis, and he wrote this for the American College of Surgeons years ago. It's called I'm Not Comfortable. I haven't been comfortable doing a case since I was a fellow. Being a fellow is the greatest job in the world, or a senior trainee, and I know you don't think so, but there is nothing more fun than being under the umbrella of your attending and throwing shade like, this crazy nonsense. Like, I told Dr. Klaus not to do it like that, but he did it, and now look what happened. It wouldn't have happened like that if he would have listened. That's the greatest part of being a fellow. You just throw shade everywhere. And then you become attending, and there's nobody there to catch you when you fall. And then there are those that do make it look easy, but just know we're still all a little bit uncomfortable. I'm not the biggest sports fan, but a lot of this stuff, some of you may sound familiar. I get a lot of my inspiration from TikTok or Reels and things. So if you recognize it, that's where it comes from. The great masters recognized the difficulty, and they repeatedly ran back into the fire. Failure was just part of the job. It's part of our job. It's part of our lives. I have accepted all the failures that are part of my world, and no one has ever achieved anything great and had balance. They worked harder than anyone else. They made sacrifices. If greatness is what you seek, then there will be no balance. If I'm crushing it in one part of my life, I am invariably failing in another. If I get called in to help on a trauma case one night whenever I'm sitting at home, I walk out on a dinner with my family. If I leave work to help a friend of mine who just had surgery, I'm not there when my youngest partner is doing this explant and she needs help, and I want to be there. So you have to realize that there are trade-offs. You have to let go of the idea of balance, because as you look there, it looks hard. Balance looks impossible to me. But you can learn to juggle. Juggle doesn't look so hard. I think I could do that. Learn to juggle. So that leaves us with number 1. We're almost there. The best way to thrive as a vascular surgeon is to stand up, even if you are the only one in the room standing. This is a lesson I've had to learn over the past couple of years. It's a really hard lesson. I was fortunate to have Julie Freischlag as my mentor. I learned it from 2 great mentors. Julie Freischlag, she was the dean at UC Davis for a while. And then this other crazy-looking guy is Bill Pevick. He was my division chief as a resident and as a junior faculty. And to understand a little bit about how different they are, Bill Pevick trained under Cambria. If you know how Cambria is, if you know how he is in the OR, Bill Pevick's exactly the same. You will do a case and he is screaming how awful you are the entire time, and at the end he will come up and he'll say, good job. And you're just like, too soon, too soon. Ooh, too soon. He is so much fun outside of the OR, but he's intense. So many people think that I speak my mind freely. I say what I want, I call it as it is. And that's sometimes not true. There are things that I do when the residents come out and sign out and they're like, oh, we have this stupid consult. I quickly chastise them. I love to tell them, weren't you the one that wanted to call medicine to get some recommendations on hypertension? Like, come on now. You don't think that that might be a silly consult whenever we have a dissection protocol? Couldn't we just use the protocol? But that consult is no more stupid than when we ask for help. Vascular is super hard. Not everybody understands it, honestly. I think that we have to give a little bit of grace there sometimes. In the last few years, I have learned to be effective in a room where my gray hair is dyed blonde, Botox, oh, that's why I don't have lines. And I wear transition lenses now, so nobody knows I'm wearing bifocals. Vanity is that hindrance. So you do not need absolute power to make a change. You do not need to go high every time they go low. You just need to be on the right side of humanity and persevere. Sun goes up, sun goes down, world spins around every day. It's going to do that again today, tomorrow, every time. And no matter how fast you go or how slow things happen, it's still going to happen that way. But if you get back up every time somebody knocks you down, no one can take that power away from you. And no one can make you feel inferior without your own consent. And if you ever find yourself on the right side of humanity and you do not feel strong enough to stand up, you give me a call, because I'll be there. I will be that person. Leadership gets really tough at the top. There are not a lot of pep talks from leaders in my level, but I will be there to help you get back on your feet. It's terrifying here right now to stand up here and just expose myself. All of my beliefs, my failures, my triumphs, but I have learned that the most important thing is to speak your truth. Even when your voice shakes. I wrote that down. Look at that. The more leadership roles you get, the great reward for doing good work is more work. So just keep that in mind. If I said something today that unsettled you, I really challenge you to look and ask yourself why. But know this, the provocation was intentional. That is who I am. We should all be asking questions every day about where we are going, why we are going there, and who the hell said we have to go there. And with that, my friends, 0 F-bombs dropped. Yeah. Ooh, let's ski. Thank you.
This queen don't need a king. I don't know what you've been taught, but this